So now since we are done with the basic concepts, let's move on to some of the connecting links. And to start with the connecting links, before understanding the actual document, we'll proceed with nothing but that is called making or framing of the Constitution. So what is making or framing of the Constitution? It's nothing but how we have actually drafted this holy book, so-called Constitution, or it has many names, Supreme Law of Land, right? So how we have drafted that Supreme Law of Land and what was the requirement? Now it has a long drawn history. Again, our approach would be very simple. We'll take this topic from prelims perspective, from mains perspective, and what are the current events, maybe including the recent amendments and all those things that may be the part of interview part. So when we talk about PT part, I hope you might have completed your history sessions. And if you have completed your history sessions, then in modern India, you might have heard about a topic called constitutional development. Suppose you haven't, nothing to worry about it. I'll just give you a brief, but more details obviously will follow when you will deal with the history part. But there we are going to take some concepts from the history. Please do not take it as overlapping or we are encroaching in the history segment. No, we are just borrowing some references so that we can understand the development of our document that is called Constitution. So when we talk about the Constitution, as we know, some basic in the Constitution. Our Constitution have around 22 parts, or in simple words we can say chapters, around 395 articles or provisions in the Constitution, around 8 schedules in the Constitution, right? And with ample of amendments. This is the original one. Right now if you see, it is having 24 parts. More than 460 plus articles had been added, after this 395, so total 460 plus articles we have now. Now we have 12 schedules. Initially we started with the 8. So what are the changes? That also we'll see. But before that, to start with, we have this much. Now to make this document, right, we needed a body, an organization, an institution. The question was, who will make this Constitution? How they will make this Constitution? So again the same thing, WH and WH. Who, what, when, how. And what was the time when we felt the need? For that part, or we can say, you can use the title if you are writing the answer, that will comprise your introduction part. The details what we'll take up will give you the main body. And when we are going to conclude, that will be the conclusion for our argument as far as this topic is concerned, framing or making of Indian Constitution. So let's try to understand how we have started, why we have started, and what was the reason behind having our own Constitution or Supreme Law of the Land. For this purpose, as I've told you, we have to get into what? History a bit when we talk about making or framing the Constitution. Now, here when we talk about the period, this document or this term called Constitution, right, was it there before as well? Or it's just a phenomena which came in 19th or 20th century? Answer is little bit ambiguous. Some people say yes, it was there. Some people say no, it's a modern phenomenon. And both are correct. When we say Constitution, it was there. If we divide the evolution, let's say in historical aspects, then we can have what? History classified as ancient, medieval and modern. Some people call postmodern, or I will use the term contemporary for that. Right? And if I ask you exactly where you will place the origin of Constitution in this evolution, then some people may say, sir, it was in ancient India. Some people may say it's a contemporary phenomena. Some may be saying it's modern. Some may be saying it's medieval. So we'll get a multiple answer for them. And all of them are correct. Because if we see this ancient period, you might have heard about the great civilizations like IVC, Indus Valley Civilization, Harappan Civilization, Mohenjo-daro Civilization, and so on. Certainly, yes. And if you see the kind of state or the government or the planning or the policy making and implementation was there, it seems that it was not possible to have all these magnificent structures, urbanization, urban development without having any rule book. Certainly they might have, however, they might not be using the term constitution per se. But there were some sort of law book which might be there. You might have heard about manuscripts. You might have heard about the various authors and their written documents which are there, like Kautilya's Arthashastra, or maybe the Aristotle, or maybe the Plato's, or John Locke's. There are so many treatises on the constitutional development. However, this term was never used, and the same thing happened in the medieval. I hope you know the phases where we classify India. Then maybe from 2500 BC to 650 AD approximately, we take this term as ancient period. To be exact, 646, the birth of Prophet Muhammad is considered to be end of the ancient period and beginning of the medieval India. Medieval period goes from 650 AD to approximately 1700, that is to be exact 1707 AD. Death of Aurangzeb is considered to be the beginning of modern India. Modern India goes from 1707 to 1947, right? That is end of the British rule in India, and contemporary may be from 1947 till date or today. So that's how we can classify the history. Please remember, we are not studying history. We are just taking some references from history to understand the framing of our document that is called Constitution. So when we talk about these phases, as I've told you, in ancient period, during various civilizations, we had some sort of rules, regulations, law and order, policy formulation, policy implementation, state and government. However, the document called Constitution was missing at that point of time. The same thing happened with the medieval phase. If you see, right from Southern Kingdom, Sheras, Cholas, Pandyas to Delhi Sultanate, and after Delhi Sultanate till Mughal administration, if we see the things, then we again have the big empires, states, provinces, parganas, sarkars, and so many things, right? However, without using a term called Constitution. So there were some law book, there were some governing document which used to be there to manage all these affairs, but certainly no prescribed term called Constitution was used. In that sense, if we see, then Constitution is nothing but it's a modern phenomena. And when we say modern phenomena, this term is being introduced by nothing but the Britishers, or we call it British legacy. So there we got to have the idea about the Constitution, or the modern day Constitution is very much a legacy of the British people. Now when we talk about the 1707 to 1947, again this can be divided into two phases. One phase was from 1707 to 1857. This is nothing but divided historically in terms of the British rule, and second phase was from 1858 to 1947. Now when we talk about these two phases, then the basic difference, what you have to understand, more details obviously, the British legacy, right, and that phase can be divided into two parts. One is 1707 till 1857 and other is 1858 till 1947. The basic difference between the two is nothing but sometime this is referred as company rule and this is referred as crown rule. So basically we have two types of rule. Company rule matlab it was by East India Company, or we can say that from 1707 till 1857, before the first war of independence, it was ruled by East India Company, which was nothing but represented by the UK government only. And after the revolt or the freedom struggle or first war of independence from 1858, the British Crown, that is British government, taken over the rule, and that is known as Crown rule, or directly the rule by the UK government, not by the representative. So more details of this you'll get when actually you are going to come across your history subject. However, here we are just interested in knowing these two things because exactly we want to locate where we have started with the Constitution. And when we say where we have started with the Constitution, it was nothing but the East India Company which started framing certain rules and regulation, and from there we derive the origin of our constitution, that how they have started making some law. So we were seeing that the development or the constitutional development started during the modern phase, and in modern phase, that too in the first part, that is nothing but from, we can say, 1707 to 1857, that is nothing but the company rule. Now when we talk about this, then how they have started, basically in history you'll come across they actually started ruling through various charters, acts and the regulating act. And to start with, first they came up with the regulating act. Now from 1773 onwards, through regulating act, various charter acts like 1813, 33 and 53, they come up with. So they started with regulating act 1773, and after that they came up with various charter acts like 1813, 1833 and 1853 in the form of charter acts. Now, after the Charter Act, as I've told you, in 1858, the rule was taken over by the British Crown, that is directly under the UK government, and they came up with Council Acts. Those are known as Indian Council Act. So, Indian Council Act 1858, then 1892, then they started with the Government of India Act, known as 1909 GOI, Government of India Act, popularly also they are known as MMR reforms or Morley-Minto reforms. Then in 1919 they came up with another Government of India Act, that is called Montford reforms or Montagu-Chelmsford reform, and then 1935 they came up with another Government of India Act. This is very important for us as far as our constitution is concerned, because we have derived most of the provisions from the Government of India Act 1935. After that they came up with the India's Independence Act 1947, that was the final act before leaving or making India independence. So in a nutshell, what our point is, nothing but we need to have some background of regulating act, charter acts, the Indian Council Acts and the Government of India Acts. However, from our exam perspective, these three acts are very important because most of the features in present day constitution is derived from these three acts. So in general, obviously the details you are going to take up in the history class, but when we talk about polity, what we need to understand or what are the things which we have taken in the constitution. You might have taken in the constitution the federal nature, that is characteristics and feature, the concepts of dual government, diarchy, you might have heard about. Then the various institutions and organizations like secretariat, legislature, judicial system. Then parliamentary form of government, then republic character, then checks and balances. What is checks and balances is nothing but there are three wings, legislature, judiciary and executive, and they keep as a checks and balance mechanism. Then division of power. In history you will see reserved subjects and transfer subject. Today we call them as list, union list, state list and concurrent list, which are mentioned in various schedules of the constitution. Especially the 7th schedule talks about these three kind of lists, where we have the jurisdiction of central government on the union list, state government on the state list, and concurrent union and state both, or we can say parliament, legislative assembly, and here parliament and legislative assembly both. So this part also we are going to talk about more in detail when we will go or get into the document called constitution. However, this part I expect you to be well versed or familiar with the history aspect. However, one thing I would like to tell, that if you are okay with it, we can give you some homework. That is, what I want from you is nothing but at least write 5 to 10 points about each of the acts which had been drafted during the Britishers era, and you can submit it to me. After reviewing that, along with the feedback, I'll revert it to you. Or else you can also remember the points. There is no need to jotting down. If you can remember at least 5 points about each of the acts, then it will definitely help you to not only understand the document called constitution, but also you'll be able to eliminate the options if they are going to be asked in prelims.